I'm Serafina, 22, and I thought I knew my family until I saw my cousin's Instagram story. There was my childhood golden retriever Max playing in someone else's backyard 3 years after my parents told me he went to a farm upstate when I left for college. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. But what I discovered next about my family's lies would shatter everything I believed about blood loyalty, expose a web of deception spanning years, and ultimately lead to the most satisfying revenge that changed our family dynamics forever. Before we dive into this incredible journey of family vengeance, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below. And if you're ready for a story that'll make you question everything about family loyalty, hit that like button and subscribe, because trust me, you won't want to miss how this unfolds. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. Growing up in suburban Denver, Max wasn't just my dog, he was my everything. My parents, Robert and Linda Ashworth, brought him home when I was 7 years old, a tiny golden ball of fur that would grow into my constant companion. For 11 years, Max and I were inseparable. He slept at the foot of my bed, walked me to the school bus stop every morning, and waited by the front window until I returned home each afternoon. My childhood was built around Max's presence. Weekend mornings meant long hikes through the Rocky Mountain trails with my golden shadow trotting beside me. Summer evenings were spent in our backyard throwing tennis balls until the sun disappeared behind the mountains. Max knew all my secrets, absorbed all my tears during teenage heartbreaks, and celebrated every small victory with enthusiastic tail wags and slobbery kisses. The Ashworth family seemed picture-perfect from the outside. Dad worked as a successful investment banker, Mom ran her own interior design business, and I was the overachieving only child destined for great things. Our house was the gathering place for family holidays, with my extended family, aunts, uncles, and cousins, filling our spacious dining room for every celebration. Max was always part of these gatherings, charming everyone with his gentle nature and impressive tricks. My cousin Jessica, Uncle Paul's daughter, was particularly fond of Max. 3 years younger than me, she'd always been the family's golden child, beautiful, popular, and effortlessly perfect at everything she touched. While I struggled with acne and awkward teenage phases, Jessica glided through life with supernatural grace. But she always seemed genuinely interested in Max, asking about his training, his favorite treats, his daily routines. Serafina's so lucky to have Max, she'd tell everyone at family dinners. I wish we could get a dog like him. Her parents always declined, citing their busy travel schedule and small apartment. I felt sorry for Jessica, imagining how wonderful it would be to share the joy Max brought to my life. As senior year approached, college applications consumed my thoughts. I'd worked tirelessly to earn admission to Northwestern University's prestigious journalism program, 1,500 miles away from home. The acceptance letter arrived in March, bringing excitement and terror in equal measure. I'd achieved my dream, but leaving Max behind felt like abandoning my soul. "What about Max?" I asked my parents during dinner, the acceptance letter still fresh in my hands. Mom and Dad exchanged glances across the table. "Sweetheart, Max will be fine," Mom assured me, reaching over to squeeze my hand. "We'll take great care of him while you're at school. Summer breaks and holidays will come faster than you think." Dad nodded enthusiastically. "Max has been part of this family for 11 years. Nothing's going to change that. He'll be here waiting for you every time you come home." Their words provided comfort during those final months before departure. I spent extra time with Max, taking thousands of photos and videos, creating a mental catalog of every detail. The way his ears perked up when he heard my car in the driveway, his excited spinning dance before mealtime, the soft sighs he made while sleeping in afternoon sunbeams. The night before leaving for Northwestern, I lay on my bedroom floor with Max curled against my side. "I'll be back for Thanksgiving," I whispered into his fur. "Just a few months, boy. Mom and Dad will spoil you rotten while I'm gone." His brown eyes seemed to understand, and he licked my face, as if promising to wait. Move-in day arrived with typical August heat and chaos. Dad loaded my belongings into our SUV while Mom fussed over last-minute details. Max sat by the front door watching the proceedings with confused eyes. When the moment came to leave, I knelt down for one final hug. "Take care of Mom and Dad for me," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I love you so much, Max." The drive to Chicago felt surreal. My parents kept conversation light, discussing campus orientation schedules and dormitory arrangements. They stayed for 2 days, helping me settle into college life before flying back to Denver. During our goodbye at O'Hare Airport, I made them promise to send daily photos of Max. "Of course, darling," Mom said, hugging me tightly. Max photos every single day. For the first month of college, they kept that promise. Daily texts arrived featuring Max in various poses, napping on the couch, playing in the backyard, posing with his favorite tennis ball. The photos sustained me through homesickness and academic pressure, providing comfort during difficult adjustment periods. But as October arrived, the photos became less frequent, 3 times per week, then twice, then sporadic. When I called home, my parents assured me everything was fine. "Max is doing great," Dad would say. "Just busy with work lately, forgot to take pictures." I accepted their explanations, trusting completely in their love for Max and their promises to care for him. College life gradually consumed more of my attention: journalism classes, internship applications, new friendships, and romantic interests. Max remained in my heart, but the daily ache of missing him began to fade into background noise. When Thanksgiving break finally arrived, excitement coursed through my veins. 15 weeks away from home felt like an eternity. I'd planned elaborate reunion scenarios with Max, long walks through our neighborhood, movie nights on the couch, sleeping with my furry companion back where he belonged. The flight to Denver seemed endless, but finally I stood outside our familiar front door, key in hand. I burst through the entrance, calling Max's name, expecting to be tackled by 60 pounds of golden retriever enthusiasm. Silence. "Max," I called again, dropping my suitcase and searching the house. "Max, where are you?" Mom appeared from the kitchen, her face pale and drawn. Dad emerged from his home office, both wearing expressions I'd never seen before, guilt mixed with something darker. "Sweetina, honey, we need to talk," Mom said softly. That's when they delivered the news that shattered my world into pieces. "Serafina, please sit down," Dad said, gesturing toward the living room couch, where Max used to curl up beside me during movie nights. The absence of his presence felt like a physical wound, and I hadn't even heard the devastating news yet. My parents sat across from me, their faces wearing expressions I'd seen at funerals: sorrowful but resigned. Mom twisted her wedding ring nervously, while Dad cleared his throat several times before finding his voice. "Max got sick while you were away," Mom began, her voice barely above a whisper. "It happened so suddenly. The vet said it was his heart, some kind of congenital condition that golden retrievers sometimes develop." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What do you mean sick? You never told me he was sick. Where is he now? Is he at the animal hospital?" Dad reached forward, attempting to take my hands, but I pulled away instinctively. "Sweetheart, we didn't want to worry you during your first semester. You were doing so well, adjusting to college, making new friends. We thought it would be cruel to burden you with this." "Burden me? He's my dog. Where is Max right now?" My voice rose with each word, panic clawing at my chest. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Mom's eyes filled with tears while Dad struggled to meet my gaze. Finally, the words I'd been dreading emerged from Mom's trembling lips. "We had to make the difficult decision to send him to a special farm upstate. There's a wonderful family there who specializes in caring for dogs with heart conditions. Max is living out his remaining time in peace, running free in open fields, getting the specialized care he needs." The words hit me like physical blows. "You gave away my dog, without telling me, without letting me say goodbye. It wasn't like that," Dad insisted, his voice defensive. "The veterinarian recommended this specific place. It's beautiful, acres and acres of countryside where Max can live comfortably. The family who runs it are practically veterinarians themselves. I stared at my parents, searching their faces for some sign that this was an elaborate, cruel joke, but their expressions confirmed the horrifying truth. While I'd been 1,500 miles away, worried about midterm exams and sorority rush events, my parents had made the decision to remove Max from my life forever. Which farm? I demanded. What's the address? I want to visit him. Another uncomfortable silence. Mom and Dad exchanged glances that spoke volumes about conversations they'd had without me. The family prefers minimal disruption for the animals in their care, Mom said carefully. Visits from previous owners can be traumatic for dogs who are adjusting to their new environment. The veterinarian specifically recommended no contact for the first year. That's ridiculous, I shouted, jumping to my feet. Dogs don't forget their families after 3 months. Max would remember me. Dad stood as well, his banker's composure beginning to crack. Serafina, you're being unreasonable. We made the best decision possible under impossible circumstances. Max is happy and healthy, living his best life. His best life was here, with me, with his family. Tears streamed down my face, a mixture of grief and rage that felt like it might consume me entirely. You're 19 years old, Mom said, her voice taking on a sharper edge. You're starting your adult life at college. Max was getting older, more expensive to maintain. The heart condition would have required costly medications and procedures. We couldn't afford to manage his care while also paying your college tuition. The financial excuse felt like another knife twist. Since when do we have money problems? Dad makes 6 figures. You just redecorated the entire downstairs college. Is expensive, Serafina, Dad replied curtly. We're making sacrifices to ensure your education. Sometimes that means making difficult choices about other expenses. I stared at them in disbelief. They'd reduced Max, my childhood companion, family member, and best friend, to a line item in their budget. While I'd been away achieving academic success, they claimed to support they'd eliminated the most important relationship in my life, like canceling a subscription service. I hate you both, I whispered the words, feeling foreign but absolutely true in that moment. You betrayed me, you betrayed Max, you're both liars. That's enough, Dad's voice boomed through the house. We're your parents, and we made a responsible decision. You'll understand when you're older and have children of your own. I ran upstairs to my bedroom, slamming the door and collapsing onto my bed, where Max's scent still lingered faintly on the comforter. The walls were covered with photos of us together, hiking trips, birthday celebrations, lazy Sunday afternoons. Each image felt like evidence of a life that had been stolen from me. The rest of Thanksgiving break passed in miserable silence. I refused to participate in family gatherings, couldn't stomach traditional holiday foods, and counted hours until I could return to Chicago. My parents attempted several peace-offering conversations, but I remained coldly polite, answering questions with minimal responses. They provided no additional details about Max's location, claiming privacy concerns and veterinary recommendations. When I pressed for the name of the farm or contact information, they became evasive and defensive. Something about their story didn't align properly, but grief clouded my ability to think clearly. On the flight back to Northwestern, I made a decision that would define the next 3 years of my life. If my parents could cut me off from Max so easily, I would demonstrate exactly how that felt. I would excel academically, build my own life, and minimize contact with the people who'd betrayed my trust so completely. I kept that promise. Phone calls home became brief and infrequent. Summer breaks were spent in Chicago, working internships and taking summer courses. Christmas visits lasted exactly 48 hours. My parents' attempts to rebuild our relationship were met with polite but distant responses. They'd taught me that family loyalty had limits, that love could be conditional, and that trust could be revoked without warning. I'd learned the lesson well, perhaps too well. But 3 years later, a single Instagram story would prove that I hadn't learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the truth is far more sinister than the lies we're told. 3 years of carefully maintained distance from my family had created a strange kind of peace in my life. I'd graduated magna cum laude from Northwestern, landed an entry-level position at a prestigious Chicago magazine, and built a social circle that felt more like family than my actual relatives. The sharp pain of losing Max had dulled into a manageable ache, though I still couldn't bring myself to visit dog parks or pet stores. It was a mundane Tuesday evening in March, when everything I thought I knew about my family imploded with the casual swipe of a finger across my phone screen. I was mindlessly scrolling through Instagram stories while eating takeout Thai food in my studio apartment. The usual collection of content flashed by coworkers' gym selfies, college friends' engagement announcements, food bloggers showcasing elaborate meals. Then, Jessica's story appeared, featuring her typical content of modeling shots and luxury lifestyle updates. The first few slides were predictably perfect Jessica, posing in designer workout clothes at some exclusive gym, a flat lay of expensive skincare products, a mirror selfie in what appeared to be a newly renovated apartment. I almost swiped past without paying attention, but then the fourth slide stopped me cold. It was a video of a beautiful backyard garden, professionally landscaped with raised vegetable beds and flowering shrubs. The camera panned across the space, slowly showcasing the meticulous design. But there, running through the frame with a tennis ball in his mouth, was a golden retriever who looked exactly like Max. My heart stopped. The phone trembled in my hands as I replayed the story, pausing and zooming in on the dog. Same golden coat, same athletic build, same distinctive white patch on his chest that Max had carried since puppyhood. But it couldn't be Max. This was Jessica's story, and Max was supposedly at a farm upstate, possibly dead from his heart condition by now. I told myself it was just a dog who resembled Max. Golden retrievers shared common characteristics after all. Coincidences happened, but something deep in my gut twisted with recognition and growing suspicion. The next slide made my blood freeze completely. It was a close-up photo of the same golden retriever, now wearing a bright red collar with visible name tags. The dog was looking directly at the camera with familiar brown eyes, and though I couldn't read the tags clearly, the expression was unmistakably Max's, that slightly tilted head, the gentle intelligence behind his gaze. But the caption on Jessica's story sent me into complete shock: Max loving his new spring garden. Can't believe it's been 3 years since we rescued this sweet boy. Number dog dad, number golden retriever, number rescue dog, number garden life. 3 years. Exactly the amount of time since I'd left for college and my parents told me Max had been sent to a farm upstate. With shaking fingers, I screenshot every frame of Jessica's story before it could disappear. Then I began scrolling backward through her Instagram feed, with the desperate intensity of a detective following crucial evidence. What I discovered in the next hour shattered every assumption I'd held about my family's loyalty and honesty. Post after post revealed Max living with Jessica and her boyfriend in what appeared to be a beautiful suburban home. There he was last Christmas, wearing festive reindeer antlers. Halloween photos showed him in various costumes. Summer vacation pictures featured Max on hiking trails and at dog beaches. Birthday posts celebrated his adoption anniversary with elaborate dog cakes and toys. Each image was captioned with loving messages about their rescue dog Max, about how grateful they were to have found such a wonderful companion, about the joy he'd brought to their lives. The comments were filled with friends and family members, including my own aunts and uncles, liking and responding to Jessica's posts about her dog. My hands shook as I scrolled further back, finding the first post featuring Max from December of my freshman year. Jessica had posted a photo of Max in their living room with the caption, "Welcoming our new family member. Sometimes, the universe brings exactly what you need when you need it most. This sweet golden boy needed a new home and we needed more love in our lives. Perfect match number, new dog number, blessed number, golden love." The comments on that post were even more damning. Several family members had responded with enthusiasm, including my own grandmother. "So wonderful that Max found such a loving home with you. He looks so happy." My Uncle Paul had written, "Jessica's been wanting a dog for years. Glad it worked out for everyone." The evidence was overwhelming and sickening. My parents hadn't sent Max to a farm upstate for his health, they'd given him to Jessica probably the moment I left for college. The heart condition was a fabrication. The expensive care was a lie. The inability to visit was manufactured. My family had participated in an elaborate deception that stretched across 3 years, involving aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents. They'd watched me grieve for my dog while Jessica posted regular updates about his wonderful life with his new family. Every holiday gathering I'd missed, every family event I'd avoided due to lingering resentment, Max had probably been there playing with children and accepting treats from relatives who knew exactly where he'd come from. But this revelation cut deeper than simple deception. This was betrayal at the most fundamental level. My parents had taken the relationship that meant the most to me and transferred it to their golden child niece like it was a piece of furniture they were passing along to someone who could appreciate it more. The cruelest part was watching Jessica receive praise for being such a loving dog owner, for rescuing a golden retriever who needed a home. She was getting credit for saving Max while I was painted as the irresponsible teenager who'd abandoned her pet for college. The narrative had been completely rewritten to cast Jessica as the hero and me as the negligent owner who didn't deserve Max's loyalty. I spent the rest of the night screenshotting evidence and building a timeline of deception. Jessica's posts revealed family gatherings where Max was clearly present, holiday celebrations he'd participated in, even photos of my grandmother feeding him treats during Christmas dinner. My own family had been living a double life for 3 years, maintaining the fiction of Max's absence while enjoying his presence at every gathering I'd skipped. The rage building inside me felt different from anything I'd experienced before, not the hot anger of discovering their initial lie, but the cold fury of recognizing calculated long-term betrayal. They hadn't just taken my dog, they'd gaslit me for 3 years, while celebrating his presence in Jessica's life. As the sun rose over Chicago, I sat surrounded by printed screenshots and notes documenting my family's deception. The magnitude of their betrayal demanded a response that matched its scope. They'd taught me that family loyalty was conditional, that love could be transferred without consent, and that trust was meaningless when it conflicted with their preferences. I was about to teach them a lesson about consequences they'd never forget. The game had changed completely, and I intended to win. The discovery of Max living happily with Jessica transformed my grief into laser-focused determination. If my family wanted to play games with deception and gaslighting, I'd show them exactly how that game could be won by someone with journalistic training and nothing left to lose. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a digital detective, methodically documenting every piece of evidence related to their 3-year conspiracy. My journalism professors had taught me the importance of corroborating sources and building airtight cases skills that proved invaluable when investigating my own family's betrayal. I started with Jessica's social media presence, screenshotting every photo and caption featuring Max from the past 3 years. Her Instagram revealed a detailed timeline of Max's life with his new family vet, visits, training classes, playdates with other dogs, family vacations where Max traveled in their car. The captions consistently referred to him as their rescue dog, who'd needed a loving home, perpetuating the fiction that they'd saved him rather than stolen him. But Jessica's Facebook account provided even more damaging evidence. Her privacy settings were more relaxed there, and her posts included comments from extended family members who clearly knew Max's true origins. I found multiple instances where my aunts and uncles referenced Serafina's old dog in their comments, treating the transfer like it was common knowledge. One particularly infuriating post from last Thanksgiving showed Max wearing a turkey costume at Jessica's table with my grandmother, commenting, "So glad Max found a family that appreciates him properly." Some people just aren't ready for the responsibility of pet ownership. The implication that I'd been irresponsible or negligent made my blood boil, especially knowing I'd been lied to about the entire situation. I expanded my investigation to other family members' social media accounts, creating a comprehensive dossier of evidence. My Uncle Paul's Facebook showed photos from family gatherings where Max was clearly present, tagged with captions like, "Great to have the whole family together." My cousin's accounts revealed casual mentions of Jessica's dog, Max, in ways that suggested his presence at family events was routine and expected. The most damaging evidence came from my own grandmother's Facebook account, which was poorly managed and contained photos going back years. I found pictures from Christmas 2021, just 4 months after my parents told me Max was at a farm upstate, showing him wearing holiday sweaters and posing with presents under Jessica's tree. The caption read, "Beautiful Christmas morning with all the grandkids, including our 4-legged grandson Max in his new home." Armed with digital evidence, I turned my attention to financial records and documentation. Using my journalism training, I filed Freedom of Information Act requests and searched public databases for veterinary records, pet registration documents, and any paper trail that might exist. What I discovered was even more systematic than I'd imagined. Max's veterinary records from our family vet in Denver showed his last appointment was in August 2021, right before I left for college. The records indicated he was in perfect health, with no mention of heart conditions or specialized care needs. The final entry noted transfer of ownership paperwork completed. New owners Jessica Morrison and David Chen. Transfer of ownership paperwork. Not emergency medical care. Not a temporary arrangement for specialized treatment. A permanent transfer of ownership to Jessica and her boyfriend completed while I was packing for Northwestern and trusting my parents' promises to care for Max while I was away. I contacted Max's veterinarian directly, posing as a journalist researching pet abandonment stories. Dr. Martinez remembered Max well and confirmed that he'd been in excellent health when ownership was transferred. "Beautiful dog," she said during our phone conversation. The new owners seemed very excited to have him. Said they'd been wanting a golden retriever for years. The veterinarian's casual mention that Jessica and her boyfriend had been wanting a golden retriever for years contradicted every story I'd heard about Max needing specialized care or being difficult to manage. This wasn't an emergency medical decision, it was a planned transfer to people who'd specifically wanted a dog like Max. I also discovered that Jessica had registered Max under her name with the city of Aurora where she lived. The registration was dated September 2021, confirming the timeline of deception. She'd legally claimed ownership of my dog within weeks of my departure for college. But the most devastating evidence came from an unexpected source: Jessica's boyfriend, David's LinkedIn profile. In his professional summary, he mentioned volunteering with Golden Retriever rescue organizations and having experience rehabilitating dogs from difficult family situations. The implication that Max had needed to be rescued from a difficult family situation, meaning me, was the final insult in an already outrageous betrayal. I spent hours crafting detailed timelines, organizing screenshots chronologically, and preparing legal documentation that proved the systematic nature of my family's deception. Every family gathering I'd missed due to lingering resentment about Max's supposed death had actually featured Max himself playing with cousins and eating table scraps, while my relatives maintained their elaborate lie. The scope of the conspiracy was breathtaking. My parents, Jessica, David, my grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins had all participated in gaslighting me for 3 years. They'd watched me grieve for a supposedly sick or dead dog while celebrating his presence at family events. They'd allowed Jessica to be praised as a loving pet owner, while painting me as irresponsible for abandoning a pet I'd never actually abandoned. But as I compiled evidence for what would become my nuclear response, I realized the betrayal went even deeper than pet theft. This was about family dynamics, favoritism, and a decision made by adults who viewed my attachment to Max as inconvenient compared to Jessica's desire for a perfect golden retriever. They'd calculated that I would eventually get over losing Max, that distance and time would make his absence easier to accept. They'd bet that maintaining their lie was safer than dealing with my anger about the truth. They'd assumed I would never discover their deception, never piece together the evidence, never fight back. They'd underestimated exactly who they were dealing with. And now, armed with irrefutable proof of their 3-year conspiracy, I was ready to show them the consequences of betraying someone with both journalism skills and absolutely nothing left to lose. Armed with 3 years' worth of evidence documenting my family's elaborate deception, I faced a crucial decision: how to respond to betrayal of this magnitude. The scope of their conspiracy demanded consequences that matched the systematic nature of their lies. This wasn't just about getting Max back, it was about exposing the truth and ensuring they faced accountability for years of calculated gaslighting. My journalism training had taught me the power of well-researched exposure, and my family was about to receive a masterclass in investigative storytelling. I began by crafting a comprehensive document titled "The Max Morrison Case: A 3-Year Family Conspiracy." The 40-page report detailed every aspect of their deception with the thoroughness of a court filing. I included timelines, screenshots, veterinary records, ownership transfer documents, and analysis of their coordinated lying across multiple family members. The document opened with a devastating comparison timeline on the left side: every lie my parents had told me about Max's condition and location. On the right side, photographic evidence of Max living happily with Jessica during those exact time periods. The visual impact was undeniable. While I was grieving in my dorm room, Max was wearing Halloween costumes and opening Christmas presents in Jessica's living room. But documentation was only the first phase of my plan. The second phase involved strategic exposure that would ensure maximum impact and permanent consequences for their actions. I created a private Facebook group called The Truth About Max and invited every member of my extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, and family friends who had liked Jessica's posts over the years. The group's cover photo was a side-by-side comparison: Max as a puppy in my arms, and Max 3 years later in Jessica's Instagram stories. The group's first post was my complete investigative report, accompanied by a video message I recorded in my Chicago apartment. I sat calmly in front of my camera, wearing professional attire, and delivered my findings with the detached objectivity of a news anchor reporting on corruption. For 3 years, I believed my childhood companion Max had been sent to a farm upstate due to heart problems. I began my voice steady despite the rage burning underneath. I grieved for a dog I thought was sick or dead, while you celebrated his presence at family gatherings. I skipped holidays and distanced myself from family relationships because the pain of his loss made those events unbearable. I paused, letting the weight of that statement settle before continuing. What I discovered 2 weeks ago changes everything I thought I knew about family loyalty and honesty. Max wasn't sick. He didn't need specialized care. He was given to Jessica and David the moment I left for college. And every single person in this group knew the truth, while participating in an elaborate conspiracy to keep me in the dark. The video continued for 20 minutes, methodically presenting evidence while maintaining journalistic objectivity. I didn't yell or cry or make emotional appeals. I simply presented facts, documented lies, and posed questions about character and integrity that left my family members with nowhere to hide. But the Facebook group was only the beginning. Phase 3 of my plan involved broader exposure that would extend beyond family circles and create lasting consequences for their professional and social reputations. I contacted the local Denver media outlets where my father's investment firm had relationships, pitching a human interest story about pet adoption, fraud, and family deception. Successful Denver banker covers up dog theft from daughter made for compelling local news, especially when presented with thorough documentation and emotional impact. The story gained traction quickly. Local television stations picked up the narrative, interviewing me via Skype from Chicago while showing photos of Max's supposed rescue by Jessica alongside evidence of the planned deception. My parents' professional reputations began crumbling as colleagues and clients learned about their elaborate gaslighting campaign against their own daughter. I also reached out to Jessica's employer, a prestigious marketing firm in Aurora, providing them with evidence that their employee had built her social media presence partly on lies about rescuing a dog she'd actually received. Through family deception, companies cared deeply about employee integrity, especially in client-facing roles where trust was paramount. Phase 4 targeted their social circles through strategic truth-telling that exposed the conspiracy's scope. I created a detailed timeline of deception that I mailed to my parents' neighbors, my father's golf club members, and my mother's book club friends. The document was professionally formatted and objective in tone, focusing on documented facts rather than emotional appeals. The response was immediate and devastating. Family, friends who had supported Jessica's rescue dog narrative felt manipulated and betrayed themselves. Neighbors who had seen my parents as pillars of the community began questioning what other deceptions might be hiding behind their perfect facade. But the most satisfying element of my revenge plan was its permanence. Unlike emotional confrontations that fade over time, I had created a documented record that would follow my family forever. Every future employer, romantic partner, or social connection could potentially discover their history of systematic deception through simple internet searches. I also ensured that Max's true story would be preserved through multiple channels. I created a website called maxtruthstory.com that documented his entire journey from my childhood companion to Jessica's rescue dog, complete with evidence and analysis. The site was optimized for search engines, ensuring that anyone researching my family members would discover the truth about their character. The final phase of my plan addressed the question of Max's future. Through my investigative work, I had obtained irrefutable proof that he was my dog unlawfully transferred without my knowledge or consent. I consulted with attorneys specializing in pet custody cases, building a legal foundation for Max's return. But more importantly, I had exposed my family's capacity for sustained deception in a way that would define their reputations for years to come. They had taught me that love could be conditional, that loyalty had limits, and that truth was negotiable. I had learned those lessons well and applied them with surgical precision. As news of my investigation spread through Denver's social circles, and my family scrambled to manage the reputational damage, I felt a satisfaction deeper than simple revenge. This was justice served with the patience and thoroughness they had never expected from the grieving college student they'd so easily deceived. The war they'd started with a simple lie was about to end with consequences they'd never imagined. The aftermath of my nuclear truth campaign exceeded every expectation I'd harbored for justice and accountability. Within 72 hours of my Facebook group post going live, my family's carefully constructed world began collapsing like a house of cards in a hurricane. My phone rang constantly with family members attempting damage control, but I let every call go to voicemail. Their panicked messages revealed the scope of consequences they'd never anticipated when they decided to gaslight a journalism major with investigative skills and unlimited determination. Uncle Paul called first, his voice shaking with barely controlled anger. "Serafina, you've destroyed our family's reputation over a damn dog. Jessica is devastated. She's been caring for Max beautifully for 3 years. Why couldn't you just leave well enough alone?" My grandmother left a tearful message claiming she'd never meant to hurt me, that she'd assumed I knew the truth and was okay with Max's placement with Jessica. "We thought you'd moved on, sweetheart. College, career, new life, we never imagined you still cared so deeply about Max." But the most revealing message came from my mother, her composed exterior finally cracking after decades of maintaining perfect appearances. "Serafina, you've made your point. The whole city is talking about our private family business. Your father's firm is conducting an internal review about his judgment and character. This has gone too far." The professional consequences were swift and severe. Dad's investment firm, built on client trust and ethical reputation, began losing accounts as news spread through Denver's tight-knit business community. Clients questioned whether someone who could orchestrate years of deception against his own daughter could be trusted with their financial futures. Jessica fared even worse. Her marketing firm terminated her employment after discovering she'd built portions of her professional social media presence on fabricated rescue dog stories. In an industry where authenticity and trust were paramount, her documented deception made her unemployable at reputable agencies. But the most satisfying justice came through unexpected channels. Max's veterinarian, Dr. Martinez, had been following the story through local news coverage. She contacted me directly with information that would prove crucial for the next phase of my campaign. "I've been bothered by this situation since our phone conversation," she told me during a private call. "The transfer paperwork your parents brought was suspicious at the time. They claimed you'd signed consent forms, but the signatures never looked authentic to me." Dr. Martinez provided copies of the ownership transfer documents, revealing forged signatures and backdated paperwork that constituted legal fraud. My parents hadn't just lied about Max's condition, they'd committed document fraud to transfer ownership without my knowledge or consent. Armed with evidence of criminal fraud, I filed a police report in Denver, providing investigators with veterinary records, forged signatures, and documented proof of deception spanning 3 years. The case gained media attention as an unusual intersection of family betrayal and pet fraud, generating headlines across Colorado news outlets. Legal proceedings moved quickly once authorities reviewed the evidence. My parents faced charges for fraud and conspiracy, while Jessica could potentially be charged as an accessory for knowingly receiving stolen property, albeit furry stolen property with a wagging tail. But the most beautiful justice was personal and immediate. After 3 years of separation, Max and I were finally reunited. The reunion took place at Dr. Martinez's veterinary clinic, chosen as neutral territory for the official custody transfer. When Jessica reluctantly brought Max through the clinic doors, time seemed suspended in crystalline clarity. Despite 3 years of separation, Max recognized me instantly. He pulled free from Jessica's leash and launched himself into my arms with the enthusiasm of a puppy, covering my face with kisses, while his tail wagged with enough force to power a small generator. The years melted away as I buried my face in his familiar golden fur, breathing in his scent and feeling his heartbeat against my chest. "Max, my beautiful boy," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "I never stopped looking for you. I never stopped loving you." Jessica watched our reunion with obvious distress, finally understanding that Max remembered and preferred his original family. All her Instagram posts about their perfect bond couldn't compete with the connection forged during Max's puppyhood and sustained through pure love rather than convenience. The veterinary examination revealed that Max was healthy and well cared for, but also that he'd been microchipped with my information throughout his time with Jessica. The chip registration had never been changed, providing legal proof that I'd remained his official owner despite the fraudulent transfer paperwork. Within hours of our reunion, Max was riding beside me in a rental car heading back to Chicago, where we'd build a new life together. His adjustment to city living was seamless, almost as if he remembered being away from home and was grateful to return to his real family. The long-term consequences for my parents and Jessica continued unfolding for months. Dad's investment firm eventually terminated his partnership, citing reputational damage and ethical concerns that made client retention impossible. Mom's interior design business suffered as wealthy Denver clients questioned her character and judgment. Jessica's career in marketing never recovered from the authenticity scandal. Her social media presence, once carefully curated to project success and lifestyle perfection, became a cautionary tale about the consequences of building false narratives. But the most lasting justice was the transformation of our family dynamics. The relatives who had participated in gaslighting me for 3 years found themselves ostracized from social circles once the truth emerged. Holiday gatherings became awkward affairs where people questioned what other deceptions might be lurking beneath the surface of family interactions. My extended family members who had enabled the conspiracy faced their own reckonings. Grandparents who had smiled and waved while I grieved a supposedly dead dog discovered that some betrayals damage relationships beyond repair. Aunts and uncles who had liked Jessica's Instagram posts while knowing Max's true origins learned that complicity has consequences. As I write this story today, Max is sleeping at my feet in our Chicago apartment, occasionally lifting his head to check that I'm still here. We've been reunited for 8 months now, and every day feels like a gift we'd both thought was lost forever. The family vengeance that began with a single Instagram story taught everyone involved that some betrayals carry consequences, lasting far beyond the initial deception. They'd gambled that I would never discover their lie, never investigate thoroughly enough to uncover the truth, never fight back with the tools and determination they'd underestimated. They were wrong on every count, and the justice served was sweeter than any revenge I could have imagined. Sometimes the universe provides exactly the ammunition you need to fight back against people who underestimate your capacity for uncovering truth and demanding accountability. Has your family ever betrayed your trust in ways that changed your entire relationship dynamic? Have you experienced situations where the people closest to you participated in deceptions that made you question everything you thought you knew about loyalty and love? Drop your stories in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you handled family betrayal and whether you found your own path to justice. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and share it with anyone who might be dealing with family drama or pet custody issues. Your support helps me continue sharing real stories about overcoming deception and finding strength in unexpected places. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about turning betrayal into empowerment, because trust me, life has taught me that the best revenge is always the truth, served with thorough documentation and unwavering determination. Thank you for joining me on this journey through family vengeance and ultimate justice. Max and I are proof that sometimes the good guys really do win, especially when they're armed with journalism skills, unlimited patience, and absolutely nothing left to lose. Here's to hoping your own stories of overcoming betrayal end with the same sweet taste of accountability and truth, prevailing over years of carefully constructed lies. Until next time, remember that family loyalty should never be one-sided. Trust should never be taken for granted, and the truth always has a way of surfacing, usually when the people who've been lying least expect it.